So, of course, I picked an episode where my intro was me saying I don't have a clever intro this week.
Perfect.
Let's try that again. 30 seconds.
No.
This is cut real. I'm adding this.
The content, baby. Everything is content.
Welcome to...
No, we're going to have to do it. Sorry, I'm still literally trying to get through ads to actually hear what I did.
This is still funny. Just welcome.
I don't know how to sound like me yet.
I feel more comfortable.
Don't throw to me. I don't know how to sound like me.
Is this the Twilight Zone that we're in right now? I feel like
this is fantastic.
There's got to be is this Candid Camera?
This is herding cats, by the way. Yeah. This is, if anybody wants to know what like herding cats with a water hose sounds like, this is what it sounds like.
Okay. You know what? We're just going to do it live. I'm not going to try to replicate whatever I did because I don't really know what I did.
Do it.
Apparently, it was different every single time.
Send it, baby.
That's fine. One more time. Welcome to
the 540, the Magic the Gathering Cube podcast, brought to you by a website that we're no longer sponsored by. I'm Justin Parnell. You can find me technically at Twitter, but we don't call that anymore, nor do we use that website. I'm also joined by my co-host, Ryan Overturf, a.k.a. Ryan Overdrive, and a little reunion of sorts here.
Yeah, very happy to be here, bringing you another episode of the 540. I am Ryan Overturf, and I am joined, of course, by my co-host, Ryan Sachs. Ryan, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. It's been quite some time. All right, and you know what? I also have no clue how to do this, but you know what? I think there's another Cube podcast that we're actually joined by today.
Yeah, we just cut right in here. Yeah, we just cut in. Just kind of one of those riff tracks, like, and then we just come in.
Who is this other podcast that they're talking about? I don't know those guys.
It's UberCube.
It's UberCube?
It is.
Is that how we're rebranding ourselves now? I like it. All right. Hi, UberCube.
Someone help.
So welcome. This is, again, I make jokes about herding cats, but we've got some icons here. You know, we've got Justin Parnell, we've got Ryan Overturf, we've got Ryan Sachs, and we have May. I mean, if you want to talk about iconic individuals in the Magic community, Cube community, well, we got them here. And it took a lot of a really cool little app that May found that... that you drag up and down, set some times, get some dates, hope it works out. But here we are, and I'm really grateful that we've got all you guys.
Turns out, trying to schedule between 6 different people's schedules is a little difficult.
But fun.
Not sponsored, but when to meet.
We're trying
Very
to get,
helpful for that.
We're trying to get 3 people. Granted, 2 of them are in the UK, but we're just trying to get 3 people has been impossible. So this is miraculous that this is happening.
So I'm a huge fanboy of all 3 of you, Ryan, and Justin. I mean, we'll just go ahead and get that out of the way. Your podcast single-handedly, I guess, kept my clarity when I first took an engineering traveling job. Because I used to play Magic every Thursday, and the time we played the forbidden game of Commander, and it was an every Thursday thing. And then one day, I accepted an engineering role with a company that I currently work for, and I started hopping on airplanes. And I couldn't talk about Magic, didn't know anybody. I'm a stranger in a strange land, and I would listen to the 540 podcast. And I'll give you this one little anecdotal kind of funny thing. I am in Minnesota. I am near the actual Iowa line, if I got that correctly. I'm going up the Mississippi Bluffs, traveling north. I am on some weird back roads. You guys are literally playing, going in and out because I'm losing cell service. And you're all, I want to say it was JP and Ryan at the time, Ryan Overturf talking. And my car just kind of stops because I'm trying to get my cell phone signal. And you guys got a great episode that I'm going to talk about here shortly. And I look to my right, and there's just a random dairy cow sitting in a creek staring at me uncomfortably. I was thinking, this is kismet.
Whoa. Hang on. Let's be clear here. That was not just some random dairy cow. That was providing the internet that you needed to get that episode. That was a cell tower with the spots and just happens to provide nutritious milk for whoever might want to stop by.
And then the 540 continued playing, and I enjoyed it. So I just wanted to say thank you to all three of you.
Yes,
I listened
thank
to your
you, guys.
episodes ad nauseum while in the car, traveling around the country in some of the most remote locations you could imagine. Museums that we don't even know if they're real museums. You know those roadsides says pull over and we got the best tractor here? You know, red tractor we're famous for kind of thing? Oh, yeah. Always jamming the 540. So thank you all three for joining us. So we're going to kind of do a little bit of a flashback thing here. We're going to do some rotational conversations, very round table-ish for the audience. I'm going to cue this up for a part 1, part 2, because I feel like there's a lot to say here, a lot
It's
to
probably
unpack.
going to end up like that.
Because you got three brilliant people here that are really influential to the Cube community, frankly, for a lot of reasons. So I feel like we're going to take some turns. So let's kind of start this out. We're going to have some drinks. We're going to go around the table here. Let's start out with JP. We know what you're having. I always want to guess, but let's go anyways. What are you having to drink?
What do you want to guess?
I'm going to go with high quality H2O.
I have Arizona sweet tea, actually.
Oh,
Yeah. I bring water like every time, and my kitchen is currently being remodeled right now, so I can't make my own sweet tea as any southerner would. So like I don't have a fridge or a sink or, anything that you might need. So yeah, we got a little Arizona tea. Good company to support as well. So this is what I'm rocking.
Remind me to pick you up some Bojangles sweet tea whenever you're in town, and also get you some cookout.
You won't need to remind me. I'll probably come with it in tow.
All right, Sax, what are you having?
I got a Mick Ultra Zero.
Hell yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, those are actually quite tasty.
I've been dying to try this. Not sponsored, but I do work for the company that makes it. And I'm not a huge non-alcoholic beer kind of guy, but this is I went to like the kind of launch party of it, and it was the first non-alcoholic beer that I actually liked. Again, I'm not trying, it's not an ad, but I enjoy it, and I figured, why not?
How many calories out of curiosity?
Secondary part.
What's the calorie intake on that one? What's it say on the back? I'm curious. This is for me.
29.
See, that's awesome. I had an IPA that was alcohol-free recently, and it was like 170 versus the normal 300. So felt like less of an ice cream, more of half an ice cream. So I'm going to have to go that route. How about you, Ryan Overturf? What you got?
Good old-fashioned H2O for me. I went out for coffee this morning. I had an Americano, so I'm pretty wired. So just water for me. Hydration is fundamental, gamers. # not sponsored.
And the lovely May. How about yourself?
I'm actually just having some coffee. I'm having it's called Mississippi Grog, which is like a little bit of cream, no sugar. So.
And Anthony and I are just drinking water as well, aren't we, Anthony? So onward, on with the episode.
Tomatin.
No, shh.
Single malt, not sponsored.
Early.
Wish.
We don't tell people that we're drinking scotch at 1:30 in the afternoon, okay? Anyway, moving on. Thank you.
So let's kind of do a little bit of primer here. So again, you guys are icons. I listen to your show all the time. I adored everything you guys said. I mean, between your voices, your knowledge bases about like Magic in general, Cube, curation, etc. You had a lot to offer. Let's start out with Ryan Sachs. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself, in a Cube capacity type Magic level.
Sure. Well, so, I'm going to have to go a little bit back because I really haven't been playing so much Magic lately. But yeah, I picked up Magic when I was maybe 8 years old at summer camp, like I think a lot of people did. Got reintroduced to it. I don't actually know if I've gone full Origin before. I was cleaning my room freshman year of college, and I found Magic cards under my roommate's bed. Get a flashback from there, go to the local game store, and just completely hooked. So I like to joke that my hands, which are very small, by the way, except my thumbs are actually gigantic. If you were here, I could show you. My thumb's bigger than most people's thumbs, while my fingers are... Anyways, my hands are too small to shuffle more than 40 cards. So I play solely limited. I think when I was writing for Star City, I wrote 450 articles just on limited. There's a lot. My whole life was about limited Magic for a while, and naturally that lends itself to Cube. So Cube is really the only form of Magic that I still play right now.
How about you, Overturf? What you got?
I started playing kitchen table Magic, or more in my friend's parents' basement Magic, when I was in high school in 2003. So like Legions was the new set, and I never like I took like very small breaks, but never like longer than like a full set release. Like never took even a very serious step back. And I got into competitive Magic really in college. I played a handful of pro tours in 2016. I started doing commentary on the SCG Open Series, which then became the SCG Tour. And Cube has always been something that I got into kind of through competitive Magic, where I started playing casually, and I love like just building decks because you think something is cool. But then also competitive Magic really sucked me in. So like tuning and trying to build a deck to be competitive, which I think really shows in my cube designs, where I take a lot of care in the balance and making sure that everything is competitive with everything else. But cube is something I got into because it was how the people that I would travel to PTQs with would play casually. Like we weren't just like jamming our extended decks when we were hanging out together. Like we were traveling a lot and taking it seriously, but not that seriously. So I've played Cube for, over 10 years. I don't know, probably like more like 15 now. And I started writing about Cube kind of as the sun set on the SCG tour in the early pandemic, and Cedric Phillips kind of expanded or really altered the content plan for Star City Games. And that's when I really started writing about Cube and then podcasting about Cube.
So before we move over to JP, I want to do is, JP was talking about a little miniature commercial break that does pertain to JP in particular. This is the episode that I'm going to roll out as the final week before UberCubeathon 2025, which will be at the Gathering Place in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. 64 players, 17 cubes. One includes JP's cube with no name called the Parnell Cube.
It's the legislation cube, and I won't hear anything else. Okay, I've named it JP. I'm sorry, but that's the name of your cube now.
So we got a few tickets left, JP. I'm going to include this in the show notes here. If anybody wants to join up, sign up, come out, hang out with Team UberCube. May, unfortunately, is not going to be able to join us for this season. We're going to miss you, May. We love May. But then we're going to have Parnell come out, and he's got his cube featured in the main event. And then we're going to kind of end that little miniature commercial because people are tired of me talking about it. JP, give us some origin story here.
So I started playing Magic in 1999, summer of 99. I was about 12 years old. 6th edition had just come out, which is quite a monumental change for Magic rules at the time. And I first cubed in 2008, also getting into Cube from competitive Magic. Actually cubed like in between rounds at a PTQ, like a limited PTQ. Ironically, the first city I cubed in is Richmond, Virginia, which is the city that I live in now. So I think all things have kind of coalesced to be here. But from the first moment that I cubed for the first time, it was like a really like dramatic thing of like, this is like the coolest thing in Magic that I've ever done, and became obsessed with it immediately. And it took me about 6-7 months to build my own cube by 2009. And then I started writing articles for Star City in 2010 for Cube, which lasted for about 2 years. I only wrote less than these two, a little over 100 articles. And then I think most people probably know me from moving into Commander content. But Cube has always been kind of my number one joy and passion. And then come back around, also pandemic time, and then along with Overturf, Cedric Phillips reached out to us and was like, "Hey, how do you feel about doing a Cube podcast?" He actually first asked me, he's like, "Would you like to do a podcast for Star City?" And I said no immediately, without even hearing the rest of his pitch. And he was like,
just closing it off right there.
What if it's a Cube podcast? And I was like, well, okay. Well, I'll think about it. So then we got to the 540. That was great. I think I have, and much like Overturf and Sax, I think I have very little memory of how long we recorded, or probably the content of what we recorded about very frequently. I would imagine, Anthony, that you have listened to more episodes of the 540 than the three of us combined.
I know that. I think I'm the only person that listens to UberCube the most, by the way, because I have to like edit them and get them out. So I understand this side, and you don't want to hear your own voice. Once you hit send, it's in the
I actually
interweb.
don't mind that.
The interweb has now taken it,
Magic
consumed
content
it.
where I don't mind my own voice.
Yeah, I think between me and my mom, we're the biggest listeners. But I did the 540. I kind of did a little bit of research, and I think I got this kind of right. You guys started around February 2021. I think I got that right. I was checking the Spotify kind of dates, and you went till February 2022, and you got approximately 52 episodes produced between the three of you. If I'm off, come at me, internet. But this was my scroll down count, the best I could do on the fly. But it was very influential. Stu actually has a question that he wants to ask you pertaining to Cube, because you guys did impact the Cube community. I mean, it was in a year, but you got a lot done in a year. So
yeah, and this kind of follows on. Obviously, you guys have been involved with playing Magic, obviously, for a long time, but also just involved with Magic in a way that 99.9% of our listeners are not going to experience, and most Magic players are not going to experience, right? So you've gone from the playing to being involved with content to being involved with professional Magic. But this is obviously very Cube-driven. Give me a memorable experience about Cube, and it could be something that got you into Cube. It could be something that just happened after the fact. And I'll start with Ryan Sachs. Why not? Give me something that just really sticks out in your mind about Cube.
Like about Cube for me, or like a particular moment?
It could be a deck that you drafted, an interaction, anything. Just a moment where you realized, it doesn't have to be about this, but where you realized that Cube is the greatest format of all time.
Oh, I mean, I think for a lot of people, it's you have to think through a few. There's just like one very obvious one for me. So first off, the way that I built my first cube was by taking apart all of my commander decks. It was basically I had played commander and played limited. I felt like I wanted something eternal, and I wasn't feeling that way about commander, and I knew I enjoyed drafting so much. And so I talked to some friends that had cubed. This was probably around, let's say, about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit less than that. No, a little more. And so I put together a cube. And one of the things that I remember building it, and this is why this experience, I didn't know if I was going to love it so much, right? I put one thing together. And I think everybody knows when you're building your first cube, there's a few, there are always cards that don't belong there, but you love too much. You love way too much, and they're part of the reason.
Southern Paladin, maybe? I don't know, just throwing it out there.
Anyway, moving on.
So in the
Southern Paladin?
people kept trying to tell me to cut Bituminous Blast from my cube. Before we had, in the first draft, I had said, it even came up, when someone was drafting it. Someone's like, why is this in the cube? And I said, I will cut that card from the cube when someone cascades into Bloodbraid Elf, that cascades into Shardless Agent.
Hell yeah.
I don't care what the next cascade is, but if that happens, I will then cut Bituminous Blast. Round 2 of the first draft of my first cube. This happens because the person that I said this to said, fine, I will get Bituminous Blast cut from your cube. Took it, and to me, that was such an unbelievable social experience. The whole 8 of us erupted in roar and applause. It was a really wonderful moment that to me is all about what Cube is about.
That's I don't care what my record is. I don't care about anything else that happens tonight. That happened. That's going to make my week, my month. That's incredible. I love that. What a story, man. And what a moment for that player. I would love that moment for someone. We got people in our group that are definitely on there. Hey, are we going to hang out tonight and play Magic? Yeah, you guys want to play Commander tonight? Well, we can, but it'd be much nicer if we played Cube. I want that for someone who's a Commander player to have that moment. So it's now you're coming over to the dark side. Put those Commander decks, build a cube out of them, and now you're with us.
How about you, JP? We'll change the rotation up. What you got? Memorable experience whilst in Cube.
I have a question before I get to my answer. What was the end of the chain after Shardless Agent?
It was a talisman.
I really wanted it to be Ancestral Vision.
I know. Ancestral Vision was in the deck.
Oh man,
it was. It could have happened, but
That's funny.
So I would say that and this is probably quite common for people, but I feel like one of my defining moments. I'm going to provide 2. I'll make them short.
Yeah.
Defining moments for Cube. One is the very first time that I Cube drafted. And it was at a limited PTQ, and was it was like Lorwyn sealed, right? And in between rounds, I get pulled over by my friend Kenny Mayer, who is a kind of a really important figure for like Mid-Atlantic Magic. He doesn't play too much anymore, but he pulled me over and was like, "Hey, do you want to come cube?" And I'm like, "What? I don't even know what word you're saying. Like, what is like, cube? You're just asking me like you want to come over and just and then randomly insert something." So, and he's just like, "It's just fine. It's come on." So I go over to the table. I sit down. There's Kenny and then 6 other people, and it's like he's like, "It's a draft. It's a draft." The cards are already sleeved, so I'm like, "Okay, fine. I'm just gonna do this." So he gives me a brief synopsis. He's like, "It's just all the best cards, just in Magic. It's just all the best cards." And I'm like, "Okay." So I open this pack. My first pack. I don't remember all of the cards, but I remember the cards that I was deciding between were Mind Over Matter, Yawgmoth's Will, and Cloud Goat Ranger. And I'm just like looking at this pack, and I do honestly remember this feeling of like, holy, this is so cool. Like, why have I not done this before? Because I love Limited. Like, Limited has always been my favorite way to play Magic. Ended up taking Yawgmoth's Will. Should have picked the Cloud Goat Ranger. It was the obvious choice.
Oh my!
I went
you didn't pick Cloud Goat Ranger? What is wrong with JP? Come on now.
First of all, maybe you don't remember 2007. Okay?
Kitkins, baby.
Cloud Goat Ranger was
Kitkins.
like
I don't remember
one of the most powerful Magic
It's
cards
so
printed
good.
up until that point.
Banger.
Card's
Yeah,
still good.
Yeah. So you check yourself, Stu, buddy.
All right, fine.
Anyway, I should have picked Cloud Goat Ranger, picked Yawgmoth's Will, always pick a black card. So that's one of them. And then the very first CubeCon in 2022, like right before it started, I remember I was one of the organizers, and I remember kind of just looking out at like round 1 and being like, it sounds very, very cheesy, but like remembering like where that started, like randomly getting pulled into this draft at like in between rounds at a PTQ, and then having this convention that's focused on this format that means so much to all of the organizers, and everyone's just like experiencing it. It was pretty awesome. It was a very, like, that first round was just like a very awesome moment. So those are my 2.
That's awesome.
And let's go ahead and just roll up into Ryan Overturf. What you got? You got a cube memory.
Yeah, so I mean, the Magic that I first fell in love with was just casual, maybe 60 card, build your own deck, kitchen table Magic. And the Magic that I first got really sucked into as a lifestyle was PTQ grinding. And something that really stands out in my early experience cubing is that we didn't have a lot of money in my PTQ group coming up, and the cube that existed locally when I was traveling a lot, first for PTQs, just like had cards that went into competitive decks sometimes. And so like my friend would like pilfer that, it gets to be extended season or even like standard. It's like, all right, well, we can't play the cube because like there's 50 cards that are just somewhere else right now. It's like, all right, well, that makes sense. But like, it took me years before I built my first cube because I particularly did not have money for the kind of thing at the time. I was borrowing a lot of those cards from the cube to build my constructed decks. But just realizing that, well, we are investing a lot of our time and our efforts into the PTQs, but we're having the most fun when we're cubing. So like, we should just have a cube together all the time because it's literally the best. And so like now today, it's like I have like a deck that I can roll up to an RCQ with, and I have a dozen cubes.
You took my breath away from me. I have 8, and I'm like, I thought I was a record holder. Besides, what does Bones even have? Bones probably has like 16 cubes, but like you have that many cubes. Do you get to play them often? By the way, Ryan, is that a rotation?
I play close to weekly these days. Actually, a couple weeks ago, some friends and I, we go up north and we rent out a cabin for a few days, and I got to cube like 6 times over the course of that weekend, which was pretty awesome.
Oh my God, how do I get in on that?
Yeah, where's UberCubeathon?
Yeah, where's my invite for that? I'll quit my job for that. Thank you. I'll bring the seeds.
That's fantastic.
And the dairy cow.
Sorry, I've also just been quiet because my dog has been extremely upset because there's company upstairs, and she's like, oh my goodness, company. Oh, I have to throw such a fit. I have to make sure that everybody knows that I'm here.
Well,
and
maybe
that I know that they're here.
Maybe
So,
Princess should be in your lap. I mean,
Rat dog.
she is. She's
But
she's
anyways.
a princess.
Aside from a dog tangent, how do y'all feel that the cube landscape has evolved and changed since the show last aired?
I can start this one. So Cube, when it first kind of was introduced to Magic and then kind of became mainstream, the way that Cube was first pitched, the way that I first heard of it, certainly the communication, like when it was first written about on the mothership, on that Wizards official website, was that this is a box and it has all the best cards. And Cube was like, you play with the strongest cards in Magic, and Cube was kind of messaged as one thing. It very quickly got a lot bigger than that and iterated a lot. Like, people built their own cubes, people put their own spins on it, certain restrictions, like people got really creative with it very quickly, which is awesome. And that has only proliferated more and more to the point where the kind of questions that people would ask 10 years ago about Cube aren't really even, I don't want to use the word valid, but they're not the way we think about Cube anymore. People would ask back then, how many cards do I need of each color? How many mana fixing lands do I need in my cube? And today it's like, how many colors are you even going to put in your cube? Like, what archetypes do you want to put? Do you want to put basic lands just in the cube? Do you want to force your players to draft basic lands? Do you want a house rule? Do you want to make it so every creature in all your games is every creature type? Like, you can just do anything, and just the creativity, like, that's always been what's cool about Cube. And designers and individual players were very quick to iterate even on just that notion of like the best cards. Like, that stopped being true pretty much immediately, even if it was like how it was sold for a few years after the fact. But today, Cube is like, if someone asks, do you want a cube? Yes, a cube is awesome, but I have a lot of questions about what the experience is actually going to be. Not that I will be disinterested, but I have a high curiosity because it can be so many different things.
Well, I have a follow-up question about that. Do you feel like the lack of standardization, or we'll just say the MODO or MTGO, or the expectation that came from the mothership at the time, has made it challenging to spread Cube because we have kind of broken off into our own kind of lanes? The explanation the TLDR has gotten much longer, much windier for its own reasons. Does that make it less accessible in your mind, Brian?
I think that what you're saying makes sense. I think it makes it more accessible because the big thing about Cube is you need one cube for 2, 4, 8, 12 players. So even if you don't know what the experience is going to be, even if people have an expectation in mind, as long as you craft your cube with care and you are expressing your creativity, and that's the experience. If someone shows up and their expectation is like, hey, where's your Black Lotus? It's like, I don't have a Black Lotus. It's like, maybe your expectation is unreasonable. That does not make Cube less accessible.
And I'll follow up with that, right? So I think unless an individual's exposure to Cube is purely Twitch and YouTube, where for the most part, they're just drafting the vintage cube on Magic Online, right? That's the most popular sort of format, or the most popular cube with all those. If you've got anyone else within your community, could be your play group, could be your LGS, whatever, that has a passion about cube and can talk about their thematic cube, their artistic cube, their pauper cube, their peasant cube, all of a sudden the floodgates are completely opened. And I think that's maybe something that, I don't want to say CubeCon is responsible for it or anything else, but I think we're certainly in that point now where when you talk about Cube, it's not just, Cube? You must mean the vintage Cube. No, you're talking about Cube as a philosophy rather than just an individual selection of 360 of the best cards that have ever been printed.
I was just going to say, I will say that the narrative is still around. There are a lot of people that aren't actively involved in the cube community or aren't actually aware of the creative things that people are doing with their cubes. I had the conversation about a week ago actually with the new play group that I've been experimenting and playing EDH with and whatnot, and we ended up getting to the conversation talking about Cube. And of course, the natural escalation of talking about Cube is, yeah, vintage Cube is great. It's a lot of fun. And it's just not talking about vintage Cube. And then the natural process becomes, oh, if you're not talking about vintage cube, then what other cube is there, right? And I feel like that's kind of the conversation point that is always going to exist, because until somebody's like actively aware enough about cube, like as a concept, it's still going to be their only exposure is vintage cube. And that's just kind of like the nature of what our format is, right?
I've proclaimed this a lot of times, and I know a lot of people feel this way. Like, for example, at our event, UberCubeathon, which is happening, by the way, next week, my top 8 finalists are going to be playing my powered vintage cube. I have openly admitted that it is my least favorite cube that I own. It's kind of the status quo of expectation. For whatever reason, maybe I'm part of the problem, right? Like, I'm putting it as my top 8 when I could have put any cube as my final top 8, right? It was a choice that I made. This has come up at CubeCon. I've seen this in the Discord or discourse where people are like, why is the final fight, the final boss fight, a powered vintage cube? Is it just like that warm, that hot chili that you have on that winter day, that comfort food type of vibe, that's where you land? I'm going to throw that to Sax.
So people might feel icky about this, and I agree that, there's things that are worthy of contempt in what I'm about to say. But the reason that you do Vintage Cube as the top 8 is the prestige of literally drafting with Black Lotus. Like, how often do you get to hold Black Lotus? And it's not going to be the best play experience, right? Somebody wins the tournament, wins the Power Cube draft. It'll be a cool experience for them. Maybe they have Ancestral Recall, Time Walk. It's awesome to cast them. But you ask them, what's the best cube you got for this weekend? They're probably not going to say that it was the Vintage Cube. Even if they beat everybody very easily, even if it's very fun. But it's just kind of the prestige of Vintage Cube that makes it make sense for the finals.
I feel like we're gonna turn this into
it's fine,
a long aside here. But as someone that has had a hand in creating or deciding on the final cube draft for a lot of kind of marquee cube events, the SCG Con Invitational Cube for 2018 and 2019, for CubeCon for in 2022 and 2023. All of the selections of those were for powered cubes, knowing that they would provide realistically a less good play experience than other options. However, for those events, that final draft is also acting as a marketing tool for people to want to engage with the format, have that crossover from people that have only played on Magic Online, the Vintage Cube, and get them excited about future events. Now, for something like UberCubeathon, this is not an event that you're going to be streaming or doing content for.
Unless you bring a camera.
No, you are.
You are. Yeah, we now got you.
That's why
you got to wear. You got to wear a GoPro the whole time.
That's why you're coming. Did we not tell you? Oh my gosh, Anthony!
What a way to find out. So that was the reason that has kind of served as the kind of de facto go-to. Wizards has adopted kind of the same thing. They did that for the Vegas Cube event, and it's not about the play experience. It's because it's serving as a marketing tool. Exactly what Ryan said. How often do you get to hold open a pack with a Black Lotus in it, draft it, and then go play with it?
Well, mine will be the Japanese Duel Masters foil version of that, if you guys aren't familiar with that. So they don't get the whole thing.
I am. I actually am, and it looks very sweet.
It's really beautiful. Cool. Sax. So we went a little bit off the road here. We're kind of, we're bumping around the cobblestones. But the question was cube landscape. And JP and Overturf both had some feelings about this. Where do you land in terms of when the 540 kind of closed out and where you're at now? Where is cube today for you?
Yeah, and just to tie back to some of the previous conversations, I think a lot of the current experiences people are having on the creativity of cube was just always there. I mean, it was just more like there was that person in your local shop that had a cube that was all one drops, right? 10 years ago, maybe not 10, 8 years ago was when I was introduced first to the idea of a constructed cube. A lot of people think that was my idea because I mentioned it on the 540, but they forget that I mentioned it as an experience I had 8 years ago where, you draft a card and you get 4 copies and you build 60 card decks instead, right? These types of cubes have always existed, but they've never seen the way the Magic community existed a decade ago is very different than the way the Magic community exists now. And so like things are a lot more, information is a lot more accessible. And so I think one of the biggest things that has changed is the cube community itself has grown to celebrate and appreciate these types of things in a way that wasn't the case before. So that's number one. I think it's more of a visibility change than an actual change of the landscape of cube. The other thing, and this is probably what I believe is the biggest change, is actually the card pool. If you look, so like what, Modern Horizons 1 came out in 2019. Modern Horizons 2 came out like right as 540 was like in the middle ending.
I have them all written down for 2021 and 2024. So as soon as you finish talking, Ryan, I'll go over the list because this is also my point.
So and this gets to like my big cube design philosophy, which I do think we covered on the 540 about what it's like. Basically, it boils down to cubes are of limited sizes, right? So you have a certain number of cards that you get to put in your cube. The more different things one card can do while still being good on rate, the more agency I have as a designer to build a cube that does different things. And the amount of cards like that has exploded in the last 3 years. Just like 5 years ago, I built a combat-focused cube, right? The combat-focused cube I would build today looks drastically different. It's not more powerful, but the experience will be way less linearized, way less on rails. Because I have so many different aggressive cards that I can pick from that now actually can play 5 different roles in a bunch of different decks. And so for me, I think one of the things that has also empowered the cube community to do so many different things recently is that a lot of people will complain maybe about how powerful things have gotten. But also, as a designer, if you're very meticulous to avoid the top end of that power, you have so much more agency to build cubes that express a particular creative goal of yours than you did 10 years ago.
That's such a wonderful point. I love that. And JP, actually, no, go ahead. I could talk about that for 15 years.
We could wax. That was a fantastic.
I could wax lyrical on that for
too.
So long, and I love it. But I'm not going to do that. So go ahead.
Brian mic drops here, and it's just end of episode.
That's the end of the episode.
That's done. He did a May.
Thank you. That's
all
the
right,
end of
JP. What you got, brother?
So I'm gonna just add on to Sax's point here. In 2021, which was the year essentially that the 540 was being recorded primarily, the sets that were released that year were Kaldheim, Strixhaven, Modern Horizons 2, D&D Adventures in the Forgotten Realm, and Midnight Hunt, as well as auxiliary commander products associated with the majority of those sets. In 2024, the following sets were released. Murder at Karlov Manors, Ravnica Clue, which had unique cards, Fallout, Outlaws of Thunder Junction, Modern Horizons 3, Assassin's Creed, Bloomburrow, Duskmorn, Foundations and Jumpstart, and, if you're really feeling froggy, Mystery Booster 2. Now, a lot of people are looking at that, depending on, kind of your daily interaction with Magic, and be like, that's a lot of cards, it's too many. The great thing about Cube is you can opt in to any of these experiences, and much like Sax was saying, the pool of potential functionality for how you want to use these cards and how you want to create environments around these has expanded so much that you can create cubes now just from a sheer volume standpoint because you have so much more to work with that you could not fathom even 5 years ago. And I think as cube designers, I don't care how many sets come out. The ones that are not going to fit my design philosophy or things that aren't going to work with the environment I'm trying to create, I'll just ignore those. Like I don't have to opt in. I no longer work with Magic, so this is not something that's a burden to me anymore. So just seeing this vast landscape, even in a 3-year period, change. And I'll also note that in 2021, the amount of cards that were released was the most ever. And also 2024, the amount of cards that were released were the most ever.
I was going to say, I think that 5 years that you said, right? I don't know whether that was, or how intentional specifically 5 years was, but I really do feel like 5 years ago compared to 2025, right? The change in The card density, the card quality, the card power level has gone absolutely ham sandwiches over the last 5 years. And I agree, Sax, 100%. That comment that you made about how much more choice and agency that curators have as far as everything from power level to fun to how long do you want the games to go? How long do everything, all the little minutiae of cube curation and how long you want the games to go, everything has accelerated exponentially over the last 5 years. The control that you have, I suppose, is the way that I would put it over the last few years. Like that 5-year mark, I think
you have your
so
hand on the
point.
throttle here a little bit as a curator.
100%.
Because you're right. You do have more options. I think the marketplace, frankly, was doing a little bit of catch up, right? If you think about it from a business perspective, the world stalled for a while. So we kind of get the positive windfall, whether you look at it that or not, of card production to do the catch up because economies kind of fell for a little while. I mean, think about it like that. From trading stopped, market stopped. We had the pandemic, things stopped. So when we're looking at this, it's kind of shocking the pool and we're getting all these cards and all this mass production and the increase of that. I really think that's kind of a stimulus idea that happened from these businesses. I don't want to go down the word of economics, but us as curators get more choice, more agency to kind of control. We don't have to take everything that's given to us. We can make our cubes faster, make them slower. As you said, Ryan, you could build a combat cube that is completely different than the one you built, circa 2020, the dark times, right? So that's so fascinating to me.
The specific time that this changed was actually a willful design choice from Wizards of the Coast, which was in 2009 with the release of Throne of Eldraine, of how they actually took on card design. So it was almost exactly 5 years ago, about 5 years and 5.5 years at this point, with the lead up from that starting from War of the Spark and then Core Set 2020. So there actually was a concentrated choice about how cards were designed, and it did start with Throne of Eldraine in September of 2019.
Crazy to think.
Not to blow up your narrative, Anthony, but there actually was that is something that happened.
Marvel Endgame was happening simultaneously.
Yeah. And crazy to think that that's been so condensed and compressed into this 5-year period, right? How much of a change?
I think to tie it back to our previous question to a degree of what I believe what's changed the most in the cube landscape is kind of the narrative. Overturf mentioned it, where kind of our perspective changed a lot from cube just exists to be the selection of the best cards. And now when sets come out, as we've alluded to, the question isn't just, are these cards good enough for my cube environment? It is, what cube is this a home for, right? And it becomes a lot more, let's say, acceptable to kind of look at these cards in the context of the limited environment and then trying to find the right limited environment where they fit into, right? It became a lot more, narratively speaking, about the packages and the way that these cards interact with either cards within their set, within cube, or within previous sets. And it's the amount of densities that we get lets us interact with the product in a lot more of a nuanced way that lets us, opt in for things that actually fit our design goal, as Parnell mentioned. And I feel like that is one of the biggest strengths that we've gotten as Cube has grown and developed and gotten its essentially identity threshold because of the amount of visibility that's come up, right?
So, as usual, May does the mic drop. Let's start out. Justin Parnell, can you tell the individuals who are listening right now to the post 540 UberCube episode, where can they reach you?
They cannot.
I like that a lot.
I've completely gotten rid of all social media. So, I have none. You can tag me in the UberCube podcast Discord.
There we go.
If you want to reach me, that's probably about it. But other than that, I'm scrubbing social media. We don't need that. Get that out of here.
I like where he lives. I do. All right. Overturf, what you got? How do they reach you?
I agree with Parnell's general sentiment. I am, however, on Bluesky, RyanOverdrive.bsky.social, or however it works. The handles are weird.
You will see this on a Monday because this is coming out. And Sax, how about yourself? Where do you stand with the social media of all types?
The only social media that I use, I think, is Twitter at RCSax. And yes, it's still Twitter.
And I will find you all. We're going to go ahead and just kind of head over to the socials now with our good friend Stu.
First of all, a huge thanks, as always, to our Patreons, to Patrick, Jeff, Nick, Chris, Timberdragon, Brian, Keaton, Lord Justice, Nick, Preston, and Sam. Big thank you to all of you guys for helping us keep the lights on. Really does go a long way. Really want to, again, as we've done the last few weeks, push hard for our UberCubeathon 2025 here in North Carolina at the Gathering Place in Chapel Hill. 64 players, 17 cubes. We have Swiss prizes. The prizes are absolutely out of control. There is a beautifully altered tiger, as well as some other signed foil cards. Cannot really state just how excited we are about what is at stake here for this event. It's really going to be fantastic. Again, April 26th at the Gathering Place here in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. We have a link to the event that we're going to put in our Discord. Again, I can't really say show notes because we have them, but we don't really have them. Whatever. We look forward to seeing you guys there. If you're local, then please come along, and it'll be a great event. We are a TCG affiliate. We have links in our show notes. If you want to come check us out and support the show, then you can go and order your cards for your cube, or, again, order your Black Lotuses. Use that link. We would appreciate it. Paladin. Get your Southern Paladins. Get your Jovans. You go get them. Your Time Walks right now. If you want to get on the discussion at facebook.com/groups/MTGCube, where Anthony here is an administrator. You know what that does to your, anyway. Over 1,000 members there. A lot of great conversation. Inkedgaming.com/UberCube. Go and check them out. Playmats, dice bags, mouse pads, all kinds of custom and large volume products available. You can find us at Twitter at UberCubeMTGPod or at Bluesky, UberCubeMTGPodcast.bsky.social. You can also reach us via email if you've got a longer question or comment, or if you'd just like to reach out to us about the show. We are UberCubeMTGPodcast@gmail.com. As always, find us on our Discord. And again, to our Patrons at patreon.com/UberCube. A big thanks to all of you. We love you.
Other than that, we're going to say the thing that we always say here at UberCube is Happy Cubing.
The 540!
And the 540 182 bird.
Great. We got there. We did it.
Was that
Sorry
fun?
if I was
Did you guys have a good time?